All right, take two. First rule of the channel, you're not talking about this channel. Second rule of the channel, this is not legal advice. Remember, guys, to turn on your mic on your first take if you want to get out of here early. So, in general, this is going to be the roll, don't roll grift when it comes to week 9 of fantasy football, and we'll get into it real quick. Now, the two buys that you're looking at, the 49ers and the Steelers, we've already talked about this a little bit. I got my stats pulled up right now. The main one to be talking about is probably going to be the Broncos and the Ravens game when we get down to it. Weather games right now, you are going to be looking at the Buccaneers and the Chiefs. Maybe a little bit of rain when it comes to the Rams and the Seahawks. Definite rain showers when it comes to the Lions and the Packers. And then the one other one that I maybe be looking at is maybe a little bit of rain when it comes to the Patriots and the Titans that I probably wouldn't be wanting to roll out anybody when it comes to this game. All right, moving on to Vegas. And then again, this is my second take out there right now. Patriots and Titans, 41 implied points. Again, that's not surprising, expecting that the points are going to be lower in this gun. In general, they are tracking to have the Titans by 2.5-point favorites. Drake May, and pull up DeAndre Hopkins later. Drake May, he has not cleared the concussion protocol. That he would probably upgrade the Patriots slightly, but again, I wouldn't be chasing anybody in this offense. If you can get away without rolling Ramondre, he's just going to be a volume-based RB2 if you have the opportunity in this one. Remember, and this is why I should say your good old stats lie sometimes, and that's going to be because the Texans, I shouldn't say the Texans, the Titans are fourth worst when it comes to points per game. That's partially because, they turn the football over so much. When it comes to yards per game, you're also looking at the Titans being the best when it comes to football. So again, stats do lie. That's the main thing to be thinking about when I talk about some of the stuff that's going to be going on out there. Right now, you also are going to be looking at Will Levis, questionable with a shoulder. Tony Pollard, he didn't practice all week. He's going to be questionable with a foot. Tajay Spears is going to be out with a hamstring. If you are in a bad enough situation when it comes to running backs, Julius Chestnut would be tracking towards an ugly desperation volume-based RB2 in this matchup. The other thing to be looking at is Tyler Boyd was questionable with a shoulder. He didn't practice all week. Again, this is like deeper dart throw stuff. Nick Westbrook-Kenny would pop up as a wide receiver 3 because of that. And then the other thing, if you're in like your deeper, darker type leagues, when it comes down to this, is we can get back on trying to stash Javon Baker. He would be the guy out of the two. Jalen Polk, he's off the injury report. Javon Baker, he's the special one if he can get a certain amount of consistent. Remember, the easiest way to think about Javon Baker is makes the easy stuff look hard and the hard stuff look easy. And again, last week he was active. He did some return stuff. I would imagine if we can maybe track a little bit of that progression, we might be able to actually get some snaps in the passing game this week. A little bit more interested if it's going to be Drake May, but down the line, just seeing him get on the field with the opportunity to catch a football would be a little bit interesting. All right, Chargers and Browns, 43.5 implied points. A little interesting. The points would be as low as they are. Browns by 3.5. That's not going to be surprising at all when it comes down to it. Now, I would not be chasing Hayden Hurst or Will Disley. Neither of them have injury designations, so if you were streaming one of these guys, you probably should not be doing that. You probably shouldn't have been doing that in the first place outside of like your 20-man spider leagues. Let's see. When it comes to the Browns, first and foremost, Jerome Ford is going to be off the injury report with that hamstring. I don't think this necessarily changes anything for Nick Chubb. You're probably going to be looking at like 60 to 70% snaps with him. Primarily, it's the red zone work when it comes down to it. Jerome Ford's probably going to come in and get a certain amount of design work or, quote unquote, the change of pace stuff with him versus Nick Chubb. I don't think that changes anything. Now, the two things to look at would be like Njoku. He is like sub unicorn right now because of famous Jameis. I still would be looking to take advantage of famous Jameis if you're in a deep enough league that you're willing to take the negative points if famous Jameis throws the football only to the Chargers this week. And then the other thing is Cedric Tillman. He's probably like okay role as a wide receiver 2, and then your Jerry Jeudy's and your Elijah Moore's are going to be like your dart throws wide receiver 3s in this one. Saints and Panthers, 40.5 implied points, so they're not expecting a lot of points in this one. And then the Saints, by a point. That's with Derek Carr looking like he has no injury designation right now with that oblique. Now, running back situation when it comes to the Saints, probably is going to upgrade Taysom Hill into that streamability range when it comes to tight ends. So right now you are looking at Kendra Miller being out with a hamstring and Jamal Williams being doubtful with a groin. So those vacated targets are going to go to running backs. Alvin Kamara is already going to be that guy. Someone else is going to have to catch the football or carry the football in this offense. Certain amount of Taysom Hill predictability potentially this week. Cedric Wilson is going to be questionable with a hip. He did get limiteds in. Bub Means is going to be out with an ankle. One of those two guys would likely slot in to be that big X. And then Mason Timpton would be a sneaky cute role if you're in deep enough leagues to be going after chasing that guy to take over for Rashid Shaheed, 77% snaps last week. Again, there is some vacated opportunities when it comes down to it. Bryce Young will continue to start for the Panthers. At a certain point, was tracking that potentially Jonathan Brooks would play, which is a little surprising because I think the head coach came out and said like Jonathan Brooks may not actually suit up this year. So not surprising he's not going to play this week, but is a little surprising that he was even tracking at one point to be playing this week. You're also looking at Leggett popping up with a toe in this one. And I want to read what I have written down. More of a dart throw in this game. I don't even remember. Limited practice participant with a toe injury. Again, he's probably going to be that dart throw range. Coker is probably going to be like that fringe wide receiver too, if you want to be chasing one of these two guys in not what projects to be a bad offense or not a good offense in this one. And then Tommy Tremble is questionable with a back. I probably would be going other directions when it comes to streaming tight ends like your Taysom Hill if you need that guy that's out there. All right, next up, you're looking at Dolphins and Bills, and this is one of those ones, 50 implied points, everybody that you can roll out there in this one. You're also looking at the Bills by 3 in this one to go along with it. Amari Cooper is going to be popping up with a wrist in this one. First and foremost, talk about him. I'm slightly less concerned with the wrist and probably a little bit more concerned like the snap share. I imagine like you're going to get like 60 to 80% snaps, probably like 70% snaps. And then how much of that you can count on overall in this offense in this game, you're like probably 5 to maybe 10 targets. It's going to be this massive range of outcomes when it comes to guessing on Amari Cooper. And if you're going to get red zone opportunities to go along with it when it comes down to that one. If he's active, Curtis Samuel right now, he's questionable with the chest. Regardless of all this, because of the implied points, this would be a good week to be rolling out your Keon Coleman and your Khalil Shakur shares. In this one, Khalil Shakur is going to be more probably a volume-based wide receiver 3, and Keon Coleman is going to be definitely like boom bust with the usage, trying to guess like how much Amari Cooper is going to eat into him and how much Khalil Shakur is going to get just like volume in this one. Like Dalton Kincaid is going to be a low-end tight end one because of the implied points, if you're worried about that one. And then I don't think I have anything when it comes to Dolphins news in this game. Cowboys and Falcons are going to be up next, 48 implied points. So you're getting up there towards like everybody to be rolling out there in this one. And they do have the Cowboys by point. A little surprising because of how inconsistent the Cowboys have been this year. Now, Rico Dowdle, he's going to be off the injury report with that illness that he missed last week's game with. And I did go scour the internet a little bit to see if there was any rumors about Dalvin Cook. There is not. Moving back to the practice squad is not interesting. That's procedural stuff. They can move him up and down, I think, like 2 more times before they got to make a decision on him in general. So again, like when it comes to the implied points, you're rolling out everybody when it comes to the Falcons. That includes like Algiers on the table because more opportunities to score in the red zone are going to be there. And then when it comes to the Cowboys, probably I'm only going to be really wanting to roll out your CeeDee Lambs and your Fergusons in this game. Again, if you want to be rolling out your Rico Dowdle, it's going to be heavily based on whether or not Dalvin Cook is going to be active in the game. All right, Broncos and Ravens, 43 implied points in this one, and they have the Ravens by 10.5. I don't understand why they have this the way it is. The Ravens defense is not particularly good, at least statistically. Part of that could be because their offense is so good and the other team is having to throw and score points because they're behind. That doesn't particularly matter. The Broncos defense has been good. So why they have the Ravens by this many points, I don't know. You can see the Broncos right there are the 3rd best when it comes to overall yards per game. And they are also the 3rd best when it comes to points per game on defense. So like this is one of those like, hard place in rocks or, immovable object meets a force, something along those lines when it comes to this game. So trying to predict what this game's going to be like, especially like Bo Nix, probably is going to be one of those guys who can be very volatile. Again, is he going to be able to just be a game manager? Does he have to throw? Or does he have to throw? You're probably going to get a certain amount of nimbly bimbly just because even if they're behind, he's going to be scrambling around a whole bunch. How many points you're going to be able to necessarily get out of that. The other one in this one, again, remember, like, your stats can lie. One of the things that the Ravens do really well right now is, statistically, there's not a lot of yards rushing. Now, that can also be explained because if they're scoring so many points, the teams are abandoning the run in the first place. So probably not a great week for Javonte. Maybe a little bit more when it comes to Jaleel McLaughlin in this one. The only only Broncos receiver I would be chasing would be Courtland Sutton. He's still be in that like wide receiver 3 type of range if I have to be rolling him out there. And then outside of Derrick Henry, all the other guys, like regardless of Deontay Johnson, there's no real news on like how much he's going to play. If he's going to play on this one, Bateman and Flowers would still be the wide receiver 3 range, and then your guess is going to be good as mine when it comes to Mark Andrews. If I can guess, this is going to be the week again. They don't care about your fantasy lineup. A little bit of news when it comes to the Ravens and their running backs, and unless I don't know if I already said this, Lamar Jackson did pop up with a knee. He was off the injury report by Friday. When it comes to the Ravens, I don't think this is going to necessarily change Derrick Henry much outside of his overall ceiling on the season. Keaton Mitchell is trending towards playing, maybe not this week, but in general, he is trending towards coming back. Again, change the pace guy. This probably eats a little bit more into Justice Hill, even though I think Justice Hill is going to maintain his role as the trustworthy guy. It just means that they have another weapon, and that means that everything is going to be getting more and more volatile when it comes to guessing the Ravens, outside of probably like Lamar Jackson. All right, sip of water. Moving on to next, we got to look at the Raiders and the Bengals. 45 implied points in this game. You also are going to be looking at the Bengals by 6.5, so they're expecting the Bengals to be blowing out the Ravens a little bit in this game. Zamir White with a quad. Jacoby Myers probably is a low-end wide receiver 2 rest of the year just because outside of Brock Bowers, there's really no one to throw the football to. Alexander Madison, if you have to, I don't necessarily want pieces of bad offenses. The Bengals in this one, Zach Moss, he did pop up with a neck. He's doubtful. You are looking right now to be tracking Chase Brown to be full bell cow. And there's also vacated targets. Now, I don't necessarily think he's used in the offense that way, that he's going to get a certain amount of the vacated targets. T. Higgins, he is doubtful with that quad injury. Primarily, if you want to be guessing, and this is one of the things I probably would not be chasing, Gesicki. I did see today that primarily he's used as a big slot and not in line as a tight end. That also goes along with the Eric All usage. But I would not expect that you're going to be looking at the Bengals needing to throw in this game. So I don't know how much I would be chasing Gesicki, even though there's vacated targets in this one. The two guys I would be looking at if you are going to be chasing is Yosivas. He's been disappointing all year. And if you want to be in one of those leagues that you're going to be chasing, like the Jermaine Burton spike weeks, it is there, especially with Charlie Jones popping up with a DNP on Friday with a groin. Charlie Jones is probably like their wide receiver, like 4, 5, 6, something along those lines based off of who's active. Commanders and Giants are going to be up next, and you're looking at 42 implied points in this game. A little surprising when I looked at, they do have the Giants by 1.5 in this one. That surprised me. All things considered, Giants do have an okay defense to be looking at on this one. B-Rob, he pops up. He's been getting limiteds all week with that hamstring. This theoretically could upgrade Austin Eckler to close to full bell cow. I don't think he's going to get full bell cow because of Nichols, but close enough to be wanting to roll out Austin Eckler if B-Rob is going to be out this game. The other thing to be looking at from the Giants' perspective right now is Tyrone Tracy. He does clear the concussion protocol, so he's good to go. He's going to be rolling out there coming off of that 20 for 145 and a touchdown, 3 for 2 for 5. Redskins are not necessarily a bad matchup to be rolling out Tyrone Tracy in this week if you're wondering about that type of thing. And then the only thing I really have, this is probably like deeper leagues or like your dynasty leagues, Theo Johnson, when you're up to like 97% snaps, like you're going to have a spike week. I don't know if it's predictive at this point. I don't know if I'd be chasing that one. Bears and Cards are going to be up next. I don't have a lot to say about any of the injuries that are going on with this game. There's aren't any injuries to be really tracking on. I don't trust the Bears. That would be the only thing that I have to say about that. Like outside of maybe like Swift, I don't really trust the Bears. So downgrade your guys probably like close to like wide receiver threes if you're going to be rolling out the Bears wide receivers. Cole Kmet, he can't break my heart because he's a tight end. 46.5 implied points to go along with this game. You're also looking at the Bears by a point. So they don't really know what's going to go on in this game other than like, they're saying there's not going to be a lot of scoring, but there also isn't going to be not a lot of scoring, and they don't know who's going to win the game. And then I don't trust the Bears offense. So, Trey McBride, Marvin Harrison's probably a downgrade to like wide receiver 2, maybe even boom bust land. Trey McBride's going to be a unicorn, and James Conner, he's like full bell cow when it comes down to that. The only guy that if you're wondering about like Kyler Murray, if you have like a Jane Daniels, I'd probably be going like a Jane Daniels. Otherwise, like the Nimbly Bimbly can win you a week single-handedly when it comes to like your Kyler Murray. So I wouldn't be getting cute unless you have somebody else that's like already a guy that you trust a little bit more. Jaguars and Eagles in this game, 47 implied points by Vegas. You're looking at 3.5 favorites when it comes to the Eagles. None of that's surprising. First and foremost, and I didn't write this down in my notes, and I don't know what I did on this one. You're looking at Travis Etienne popping up with the hamstring, questionable all week long, limited practices. I did see on Twitter today that they're not expecting him to play. The other one that'd be tracking on would be Tank Bigsby. He has questionable all week with an ankle. So he did get, Travis Etienne, 3 consecutive limited practices, but I did see on Twitter that he's going to be not expected to play. And then Bigsby suit up, missed the previous 2 games. Slightly better position to suit up. So like the limited practices for Bigsby when you're going to be looking at that. The one thing that I would be looking at based off of this would be if Bigsby and Etienne miss out, you are looking at desperation running back 2 when it comes to Dearness Johnson. If you want to be chasing that type of thing, primarily the big news on this one, Christian Kirk IR with that collarbone. Gabe Davis right now questionable all week with a shoulder. He did get limited in. Brian Thomas did get limited in all week long. Game time decision. I did see that their coach came out and said like if he does play, he's not going to be 100%, which means if he doesn't play, he's not 100%. If it means if he does play, he's 100% because that's coach speak for I'm not going to tell you this stuff. I also have in my notes, the more guys that get downgraded in this game, it probably does upgrade your Evan Ingram because now you're looking at potentially getting red zone opportunities if they get down there. The other guy that this would be upgrading, depending on how many guys go down, would be Parker Washington. Parker Washington, he's already in that like wide receiver 3 range, low end wide receiver 3 range. And then the more guys that miss, if you get a Brian Thomas miss, that you could start talking about moving Parker Washington up into like wide receiver 2 range. Because again, like Gabe Davis is going to be very unpredictable. That's just kind of how he plays. And I bet you can get like a 40-degree day out of Parker Washington with all the vacated opportunities that are likely to be floating around when it comes to the Jaguars. Eagles news, there's only one really big thing. And again, like if you're chasing these guys, like Dallas Goedert knocked out with a hamstring. So you can be looking at rolling your Grant Calcaterra as a wide receiver 3. And this would be one of the weeks, when it comes to overall like bad defenses, if you can trust that type of thing. The Jaguars, they're the second worst when it comes to passing yards right now. Again, remember, stats do lie when it comes down to it. Rams and Seahawks, 47 implied points overall. You also are going to be looking at the Rams by 1.5 in this one. I think this is one of the weather games, like 50-50 chance of rain in this one. DK, he's going to be out with his knee. So we can be looking at upgrading all of the receivers when it comes to the Seahawks. First and foremost, Kenneth Walker would be the main beneficiary of this. Tyler Lockett, JSN, slight upgrades. I don't know if you can necessarily trust either of those guys outside of, desperation wide receiver 2 or like, your flex wide receiver 3. The main news out of this is Noah Fant. He is out right now with a groin. So you could theoretically be looking at chasing like AJ Barner as a streamer. Vacated opportunities go to running backs first and tight end second. And we get the consolidation of targets when it comes to AJ Barner getting about like 30-40% of snaps, and Noah Fant, that 60% of snaps. You could get like a 90% snaps day going to AJ Barner in this one. Rams news: Puka questionable with a knee, so he, I guess, banged his knee on the turf, and now like they're saying that they think that he's going to play. Be monitoring this. You're also looking at Jordan Whittington, getting limiteds all in with a shoulder, so he could easily just slot right into the Puka Nacua role in this offense. More than likely, probably going to be like wide receiver 3 range if you're going to be waiting to find out like who's active, inactive on this one. Lions and Packers, this is one of those rain games that we can be looking at. Definite rain showers in this one. You also are going to be looking at a lot of implied points, 49 points in this game. But again, I would probably downgrade that because of the weather. You're also looking at Packers by 1.5, which is a little surprising. Jordan Love right now does look like he's trending towards being a game time decision. And this gets like really dicey when it comes to these guys. It says tracking to play. This is 12 minutes ago, so I didn't even see this. So right now they're tracking to play. If he plays, now you can start looking at rolling out all of the Packers receivers. Jaden Reed, Romeo Doubs, Christian Watson, Dontavian Wicks are probably all roles depending on how deep your league is. If he doesn't play, then you'd be looking more towards streaming Malik Willis because of that, because of the nimble ability he has. Now, the other thing is Josh Jacobs did miss on Wednesday with an ankle. He did get 2 limiteds in, so probably not entirely concerned with him overall. And then Kraft is a tight end, so you're rolling him probably regardless at this point. If you've been living under a rock, Joe Flacco is going to be the starting quarterback for the Colts. Anthony Richardson has been benched. You're looking at 46.5 implied points for the Vikings. Remember, the Vikings defense is going to be like very unpredictable. And this is like probably not the greatest matchup in the world when it comes to if Joe Flacco wants to come out and throw bombs against this Vikings secondary. Like they are, let's see if I can pull them up. They're 3rd worst when it comes to that. So like you could be landing your air yards this week when it comes to rolling out your Colts receivers in this one. And remember, the other thing is the Colts defense is like hilariously bad. They're up there with like the Jaguars when it comes down to like they're the Colts right now, 227 a game, but I bet they are slightly worse when it comes to overall 5th worst overall defense. And part of that like could be explained when it comes to Anthony Richardson not being good. But in general, this is going to be somewhat volatile that I would be trying to take advantage of in this game. 46.5 implied points. Pittman and Josh Downs were full goes. I probably would not be chasing anybody outside of those 2 guys. Alec Pierce would be like a low-end dart throw if you want to be going after him. You could even get as far if you're in deep enough leagues to try and see if you can get Adonai Mitchell to land on his limited amount of opportunities that he gets. There's a lot of air yards on the limited amount. But again, I probably would not be chasing that. It'd be more I told you so when he pops up as a top 10 receiver this week in fantasy. TJ Hawkinson, we are tracking that he's going to make his debut. I probably would not be rolling him out there other than trying to catch a touchdown pass in this game. You'll expect that he's going to be somewhere between like 50, maybe even like 40% snaps and 70% snaps in the first game back from the knee injury. So I'm not tracking on using him right now. Finally, we are looking at the Buccaneers and Chiefs, 47 implied points in this game. They also have the Chiefs by 7. A little surprising on this one because of how not good the Chiefs offense has been so far. Chiefs do have a good defense. Expect that the Buccaneers are going to have a certain amount of volatility on offense going forward. Pulling this stuff up. So right now, Juju, he missed practice on Friday with that hamstring, trying to figure out where those targets are going to go. If you're wondering about rolling out your DeAndre Hopkins shares in this one, and I want to bring up this one first. I imagine that you're going to be looking at maybe as high as 70% snaps, 50 to 70% snaps. Primarily, you're going to be hoping that you get red zone opportunities that he's able to cash in on. Trying to say that he's going to be like some type of volume-based play, especially because we don't necessarily know how he's going to be integrated in the offense with Kelsey out there. Xavier Worthy is still probably going to, Xavier Worthy is probably going to remain in that wide receiver 3 type of range if you want to be tracking on that stuff. And then the main news in this one is going to come down to the Chiefs and what's going on with, or not the Chiefs, the Buccaneers, what's going on with them. So Bucky Irving, he pops up with a toe. He didn't practice on Friday. So you are looking at rolling your Sean Tucker shares out there as like a desperation running back 2 in this one. Now remember, with Mike Evans and Chris Godwin being out, vacated targets tend to go to running back first. So if Bucky Irving misses, this would be like Rachaad White, like full bell cow mode, primarily as the receiving running back that he is. Now, when it comes to the wide receivers, the only guy that I'd be rolling out there is Jalen McMillan. I would be tracking theoretically on the snap shares of Raheem Jarrett and Ryan Miller for next week. Maybe we can get a 1 week rental on these guys before Mike Evans comes back. Cade Otton, he's going to be in that sub unicorn, if not unicorn tier of guys with all those vacated opportunities that are out there. And the other thing to be talking about when it comes to the wide receivers for the Buccaneers is Sterling Shepard did miss Thursday and Friday with a hamstring. So we're looking at more consolidation of opportunities. So that, again, like that would keep Jalen McMillan, again, like he's wide receiver 3. I would probably upgrade him into like low levels of wide receiver 2 because of last week's usage. Red zone opportunity, almost 100 air yards, all those targets to go around. Like I could definitely see that you're going to be looking at a 40-degree day as a floor with a little bit of spike that could be in there to go along with it. So anyway, that's about all I got for the Grift this week, and hopefully I can get my stuff done and get the sausage out on Sunday.